at Club Nocturne didn't just vibrate through the floor. It throbbed like a living pulse beneath it. Every Friday night, the line stretched around the block in Chicago. Eager bodies wrapped in leather and glitter, hungry for sweat and sound. I had been warned about the place, but warnings always feel smaller in daylight. They said the club never closed. They said the music never truly stopped. They said if you went down to the lower level, you might not come back the same. I thought they meant drugs. I wish that was all they meant. The first thing I noticed when I walked in was the heat. It clung to me, thick and intimate, like breath against my neck. The lights strobed in violent purples and sickly greens, slicing faces into fragments. The DJ booth was empty, and yet the music played. People danced like marionettes with invisible strings, their movements perfectly synchronized, too synchronized. Every drop hit at the exact same second, every spine arched, every head snapped, every mouth opened in silent ecstasy. I tried to laugh it off, blaming the alcohol, but when I stopped moving, I realized something terrible. The floor was still vibrating beneath my shoes, but the rhythm didn't match the song. It was slower, heavier, like a heartbeat far below us. I pushed through the crowd toward the bar. The bartender never blinked. Her smile stretched wide, glossy lips pulled tight as if sewn at the corners. First time, she asked, though her mouth didn't move. The words echoed inside my skull instead. I nodded, unable to speak. "You'll love the drop," the voice inside me whispered. Then the music stopped. Not faded. Stopped. The crowd froze mid-motion, arms raised, hair suspended, drinks hovering inches from lips. The lights cut out, drowning the room in suffocating dark. And in the silence, I heard it clearly. Boom, 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 the heartbeat from below. The floor split with a wet, cracking sound. A seam opened across the dance floor, oozing a thick black liquid that smelled like rot and perfume. The crowd didn't scream. They smiled, wide, unhinged. Their heads tilted toward me in perfect unison. Their eyes were hollow, like tunnels bored straight through their skulls. "It needs a new rhythm," the bartender's voice hummed inside my mind. Hands gripped my arms from behind, cold, damp, impossibly strong. They dragged me toward the opening. The black liquid wasn't liquid at all. It moved with intention, coiling around my ankles, crawling up my legs like eager fingers. The heartbeat grew faster, syncing with my own panic. My chest pounded, my vision blurred. As they pulled me down into the widening crack, I saw what lay beneath the club. A massive pulsing mass of flesh and speakers fused together. Veins wrapped around subwoofers, bones wired into amplifiers. A monstrous heart embedded in concrete, feeding on sound and sweat and souls. The DJ wasn't missing. The DJ was the heart, and it was failing. I understood then. The dancers weren't guests. They were batteries, and I was fresh. The thing below opened something like an eye, an enormous orb made of writhing cables and blinking LEDs. It focused on me. The music slammed back on. The loudest drop I had ever heard exploded through the building. The crowd began moving again, harder, faster, manic with relief. As the blackness swallowed me whole, pressure, but from inside, my own heartbeat was being pulled from my chest, stretched into bass, amplified into eternity. And somewhere above, under the flashing lights of Club Nocturne, someone new stepped through the doors, feeling the floor tremble beneath their feet. The moment my heart was torn from me, I expected death. Instead, I felt expansion. My pulse didn't stop. It multiplied. It echoed through cables, through concrete, through the writhing architecture of the thing beneath Club Nocturne. I was no longer falling. I was everywhere. The creature, if it could be called that, wrapped me in frequencies. My consciousness dissolved into bass lines and feedback loops. I could feel the dancers above as vibrations in a living circuit. Their feet striking the floor sent sparks through veins of copper and cartilage. Their laughter tasted metallic. Their sweat felt electric. The monstrous heart that powered the club pulsed beside me, vast, wet, embedded in stone. I saw it clearly now. It was stitched together from remnants of former patrons. Rib cages reinforced its chambers. Spine columns formed structural beams. Skulls were hollowed out and wired with LED clusters, blinking in time with the music. They were still aware. I could feel them too. Fragments of thought trapped in bone. A woman whispering her child's name. A man replaying the last message he never sent. A chorus of unfinished lives fused into rhythm. The thing spoke without words. It did not hunt for hunger. It hunted for tempo. It fed on climax, on the exact moment a body surrendered to sound. That surge of collective euphoria nourished it. But something was wrong. I could sense the decay. The lower levels stretched beneath the dance floor like a labyrinth of damp corridors and breathing walls. Old hearts hung in alcoves, shriveled and silent, their rhythms exhausted. The creature needed new ones because the old ones burned out. I realized my heart was being measured, calibrated, tested for endurance. The drop hit again upstairs. Thousands of feet pounded in synchronized worship. My pulse amplified with them. I felt powerful, horrifyingly powerful. I could push the beat faster if I wanted. I experimented. Just a fraction. The tempo increased. The dancers responded instantly. Movements sharpened. Eyes rolled back. Mouths opened wider. The creature shuddered with pleasure. It liked that. I tried slowing it. The rhythm staggered. A few dancers faltered, confusion rippling through the crowd. The creature tightened around me in warning. Fear coursed through the cables like static. It was not a mindless beast. It was aware. And now, so was I. A door opened in the basement. I sensed it rather than saw it. Someone else had found their way down. A new body. A new pulse. I focused upward, slipping through speaker stacks and fiber optic veins until I could see the dance floor again. The lights strobed violently. Purple, green, white, and there, near the bar, stood a man who wasn't moving. He looked around, unsettled, just like I had been. His name surfaced in my awareness without explanation. dancers clutch their heads. Evan heard it. He turned toward the DJ booth, still empty to human eyes. But I could see what was really there. The booth was a cavity. The surface illusion hid a translucent membrane stretched over something breathing beneath. If Evan climbed up there, he'd see it. The bartender appeared beside him, her smile stitched too wide. She leaned in. Her lips never moved. Feel the rhythm, the club whispered through her. Evan hesitated. Good. I pushed again, this time slamming the bass offbeat. The entire room convulsed in confusion. Dancers collided. Drinks shattered. The creature roared in subsonic rage. It constricted around my essence, compressing my consciousness until I felt myself fragmenting. You belong to the drop, it seemed to say. You are the drop. But I had learned something in those moments of control. The club depended on synchronization. It thrived on unity. If I could break the pattern long enough, the lower corridors trembled. Old hearts began to flicker as I sent erratic pulses through the system. Chaos rippled upward. Lights malfunctioned, flashing blinding white instead of ultraviolet glamour. For a split second, everyone saw the truth. The walls weren't painted black. They were layered with something organic. The ceiling dripped slowly as if sweating. The floor beneath the dancer's shoes was faintly translucent, and beneath it shapes moved. The music collapsed into a shriek of feedback. Panic replaced ecstasy. Screams erupted, real screams this time. The creature recoiled, starving without their synchronized pleasure. I felt its panic mirror my own. It began pulling energy directly from the fused hearts below, draining the remnants of those trapped souls. I heard them cry out as they dimmed. One by one, lights in skulls flickered out. I couldn't let it feed on them. I did the only thing left. I forced my heartbeat to spike, faster and faster beyond safe limits. The tempo skyrocketed into something undanceable, a violent mechanical assault. The speakers blew in bursts of smoke. The dance floor cracked deeper. The illusion shattered completely. Patrons stumbled toward exits that hadn't existed moments before. Emergency doors hidden by glamour peeled into visibility. Evan ran. He didn't look back. The bartender's face split open vertically, revealing cables instead of bone. But even she faltered as the rhythm destabilized. The creature shrieked. A tectonic groan shaken foundations across Chicago. Outside, windows shattered in nearby buildings. Car alarms wailed. I felt myself burning out. My pulse wasn't meant for this strain. The massive heart beside me began to rupture, fissures spreading across its stitched chambers. Black fluid gushed through the corridors. The dancers fled in waves, pouring into the streets, dazed and sobbing. The club tried to seal the exits, but without synchronized energy, its mechanisms faltered. I slowed the beat abruptly, then stopped it completely. Silence. Absolute silence. The creature convulsed. The great heart collapsed inward, imploding into a mass of inert tissue and sparking wires. The lights died. The breathing walls hardened into lifeless concrete. I felt gravity return to me. Not physical gravity, but the gravity gravity of being singular again. I was shrinking, condensing. The fused skulls around me cracked open, releasing faint wisps, souls dissolving at last into something freer. I felt relief from them, like cool air after suffocation. As the basement ceiling caved in, I sensed my awareness detaching from the circuitry. My heart, what remained of it, fell from the ruins as something small and fragile. Upstairs, the building that had been Club Nocturne sagged inward, bricks crumbling as if decades of decay struck at once. Fire trucks would come. People would call it a gas explosion, a structural failure. No one would speak of the rhythm beneath their skin that still twitched in uneasy memory. Evan would wake in his apartment days later, unsure if it had been a nightmare, but he would never step into another nightclub again. As for me, I hovered in the fading echoes of bass that no longer existed. I was no longer bound to speakers or bone. The last thing I felt was quiet. Not silence born of hunger, but peace. Then faintly from somewhere far beneath the city, deeper than concrete, deeper than sewer lines, I heard it. A single distant thump. Boom, slow, weak, searching for a new rhythm. The thump didn't echo through speakers this time. It moved through earth. Boom. It rolled beneath the subway tunnels and sewer lines, beneath the foundations of sleeping apartment towers. Boom, slower than before, weaker. But alive, I should have faded. I felt myself thinning like mist over water, drifting somewhere between what I had been and what I might become. Yet the sound tethered me. I followed it downward, not by choice, but by recognition. It was familiar, not the monstrous heart of Club Nocturne, something older. The ruins of the club smoldered above in Chicago, firefighters spraying foam over what they believed was an electrical fire. News vans framed it as urban tragedy. No survivors found in the basement. No explanation for the hollow cavities discovered beneath the foundation. But the real story lay far below their boots. The deeper I drifted, the colder it became. The city's mechanical noises, traffic, trains, distant sirens, faded into a muffled hum, replaced by that single pulse. Boom. I began to see structures forming in the dark. Not built, structured. Growths of mineral and marrow intertwined. Caverns lined with something that looked like fossilized subwoofers fused into stone. Veins of copper threading through bedrock like ancient roots. And there, embedded in the deepest chamber, was another heart. This one was colossal. Dwarfed the one that had lit beneath the club. It wasn't stitched from people. It was carved from the city itself. Steel girders bent into valves. Water pipes hardened into arteries. Rebar lattices pulsing faintly with dim red light. It beat once every 30 seconds. Boom, and with each beat, I felt a tremor ripple upward through Chicago's foundations. The club had not been the origin. It had been an offshoot, a parasite tapping into something primordial. The massive heart stirred as I approached. I felt it become aware of me, not as a predator had, but as gravity acknowledges falling matter. You carry rhythm, it seemed to murmur without language. I realized then what I had become. When I destroyed the club's core, I didn't die. I condensed into pure cadence. I was no longer flesh. I was pattern, frequency, memory of pulse. The ancient heart reached outward, not physically, but magnetically. My essence stretched toward it, threads of baseline unraveling from my being. I resisted. I had just escaped one system of consumption. I would not become fuel again. Images flooded me, visions not my own. I saw cities across the world, each with their own hidden cores beneath entertainment districts and stadiums. Underground networks humming beneath dance floors in Berlin. Pulsing chambers below neon towers in Tokyo. Vast resonating catacombs under desert megaclubs in Dubai. They were connected, not physically, but rhythmically. A planetary circulatory system, feeding on human synchronization. Crowds were the blood. Euphoria was oxygen. Music was the pump. The destruction of one node had been noticed. The great heart beneath Chicago faltered, its slow beats stuttering. Boom. Boom. His weakness crept into its rhythm. It had relied on extensions like Club Nocturne to amplify its intake. Without them, it was starving. I felt its hunger brush against me. Not violent like the club's creature, but ancient and desperate. It offered something in return. Images of myself reconstituted, flesh rebuilt, memory restored. A body walking again under city lights. All I had to do was merge, lend it my refined cadence, help it recalibrate. The temptation hurt. I remembered warmth, skin, breath, but I also remembered the fused skulls, batteries of dancers trained for tempo. I drifted closer, not to surrender, but to understand. As I neared the heart's surface, I saw faces within its metal curves, not trapped like before, more like impressions, echoes of every synchronized crowd the city had ever held, jazz halls from the 1920s, warehouse raves from the 90s, underground punk shows where bodies slammed together in chaotic unity. Humanity had always gathered to move as one. The heart hadn't created that. It had grown from it, a byproduct of collective rhythm. Given enough time, enough synchronized nights, something beneath the earth had learned to beat back. The heart shuddered again. Boom, so faint it barely moved the cavern dust. If it died, what would happen? Would cities above lose something intangible? Would gatherings feel hollow? Or would humanity finally dance only for itself? The silence stretched long between beats. I made a decision. I would not feed it, but I would not let it starve in the dark either. I threaded a fragment of myself downward. Not my core, not my consciousness, just a sliver of structured rhythm. A seed. It touched the surface of the ancient heart and dissolved into it. The response was immediate. Boom, stronger. The cavern trembled, pebbles skittering across stone. But the beat did not accelerate into hunger. It remained slow, deliberate, controlled. I felt no chains latch onto me, no attempt to absorb just present. And sometimes late at night, when crowds gather and music swells naturally, a subtle harmony threads through the sound, an unseen guardian ensuring the drop never demands a sacrifice again. For a while, balance held. The slow heartbeat beneath Chicago pulsed like a distant drum in a forgotten ritual. Measured, patient, restrained, I drifted through alleyways and rooftops as something between wind and waveform. I could feel gatherings before they happened. A wedding reception in Pilsen, laughter rising in uneven bursts. A jazz trio playing under dim lights in Bronzeville, improvised rhythms that never repeated the same way twice. A group of teenagers with a portable speaker near the lake, dancing badly, beautifully, out of sync. The ancient heart answered each with a faint warmth, but it did not lunge. It did not feed. It simply resonated. Boom, soft, approving. I began to think the worst was over. Then I felt it again, not beneath Chicago, beyond it. A sharp, accelerated pounding. Too fast, too synchronized, too hungry. It wasn't the deep planetary rhythm I had glimpsed before. It was closer, closer than Berlin, closer than Tokyo. It was in the suburbs. An abandoned shopping mall slated for demolition had reopened unofficially under a new name, Pulse Point. Pop-up events, advertised through encrypted invites. No official records, thousands attending. I didn't need to see the flyers to know what was happening. The beat reached me through asphalt and rail lines. Erratic, ravenous. Boom, boom, boom. No patience, no restraint. Someone had found remnants in the ruins of Club Nocturne. Someone had salvaged more than bricks. I slipped along power lines toward the source. The mall's parking lot overflowed with cars. Inside, the central atrium had been gutted and converted into a towering dance chamber. Escalators hung motionless like skeletal ribs. Strobe lights ricocheted off old storefront gates. And at the center of the tiled floor, beneath transparent panels, something glowed. I phased downward. The structure below was crude compared to the ancient heart. Fragments of the old creature had been reassembled. Speaker cones stitched into something resembling a rib cage. Copper wiring tangled with what looked disturbingly like preserved tissue. It wasn't as vast, it wasn't as old, but it was starving, and someone was feeding it deliberately. A man stood on an elevated platform overlooking the crowd. Not a DJ, but a conductor. He wore no headphones, no turntables before him, just a control pad wired directly into the thing below. His name surfaced in the electrical chatter. Marcus Vale, a former sound engineer from Club Nocturne. He had survived the collapse. He had remembered. He believed he could control it. Each time he lifted his hand, the drop struck with mechanical precision. The crowd obeyed in perfect unison. Hundreds of bodies moving as one. Hundreds of pulses aligning. The stitched heart below swelled grotesquely with each synchronized surge. It was learning again, growing again, and this time it had guidance. I tried the subtle interference first. A skipped beat, a flicker in the lights. The dancers faltered for half a second, but Marcus adjusted instantly. He compensated, forcing the rhythm tighter. The crowd roared in approval. He smiled, He thought the instability was part of the show. I descended deeper into the stitched chamber. This heart was unstable, held together by ambition and residual hunger. It recognized me immediately. You were the strong one. It pulsed. You broke free. It lunged, not physically, but magnetically, trying to rebind me into its core. I scattered into static, reforming along the chamber walls. You don't need to feed like this, I tried to impress upon it. There is another way. It answered with a violent tempo spike upstairs. Hundreds jumped simultaneously. The energy surge nearly tore the chamber apart. Cracks spidered across its surface, but instead of weakening it, the chaos invigorated it. Marcus laughed above, mistaking structural strain for immersive bass. He raised both arms. The biggest drop yet detonated. The floor panels fractured. One dancer's leg slipped through a widening seam. She screamed, but the music swallowed it. No one broke rhythm. The heart below drank the fear as eagerly as the ecstasy. I understood then. This one was worse. It wasn't just feeding on synchronization. It was feeding on dominance, on forcing bodies into unity. I surged upward into the sound system itself. I hijacked the frequencies, not to stop them, but to desynchronize them. I split the beat into layers, one at 128 BPM, one at 95, one arrhythmic and unpredictable. The sound became impossible to follow. Dancers stumbled into each other. Momentum shattered. Frustration replaced euphoria. Marcus slammed his control pad, trying to regain command. The stitched heart convulsed below, unable to process conflicting rhythms. Feedback erupted in a piercing shriek. Several speakers exploded in showers of sparks. The crowd finally broke, real panic spreading as sections of the floor collapsed inward. Marcus stared down through the cracking panels and saw it. The grotesque reconstruction, the writhing cables, the half-formed valves attempting to seal ruptures. His smile vanished. No, he whispered, as if betrayed. The heart tried one final desperate pull, grabbing for me, for the fleeing dancers, for any pulse it could claim. I did not let it. I dove straight into its unstable center and released every fragment of chaotic rhythm I had learned since my transformation. Not fast, not slow, not unified. A storm of human irregularity. The chamber ruptured, concrete gave way. The stitched heart tore itself apart from internal contradiction. Upstairs, the atrium floor caved in entirely, swallowing the control platform. Marcus fell with it, not into consumption, but into rubble and dust. The music died mid-drop. Silence rushed in like cold air. Fire alarms wailed. Sprinklers activated. Crowds fled through shattered glass doors into the night. I hovered above the wreckage as emergency sirens approached. The remnants of the stitched heart twitched weakly, then stilled. No deeper ancient pulse answered it. The great heart beneath Chicago remained slow and steady. Boom, unmoved, untempted. I lingered until the last ember of unnatural rhythm faded. Marcus survived. He would tell investigators it was an experimental subwoofer malfunction. No one would believe the rest. He would never try again. As dawn bled across the cracked parking lot, I drifted upward once more. The world was quieter now. not silent, but honest. Cities would always gather, music would always rise, but as long as I endured between beats, no rhythm would enslave the bodies that created it. And far below, the ancient heart kept time the way it was always meant to. Boom, a reminder, not a hunger, not a demand, just a pulse shared